Welcome to the Morningstar Podcast, a space for real conversations and shared experiences. Together, we'll explore the ideas and stories that inspire, guide, and connect us all. Let's get started. The Morningstar Podcast discusses topics related to recovery, addiction, and mental health, which may be sensitive for some listeners. We are not medical professionals, and this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice or treatment. Listener discretion is advised.
All right, welcome back to the Morningstar Podcast. My name is Justin Marcette. Here we have Stuart James, right? Is our special guest here today. You know, how are you doing today?
Doing good. Just finally getting caffeinated.
I seen that you were just in
Eagle Butte.
Eagle Butte the other day, huh?
Yep. And then Sioux Falls last weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, doing the rap thing.
The rap thing.
The rap thing.
Yeah. Awesome. So tell us a little bit about yourself, some of your history, your whatever you want to share, whatever is on your mind.
So I'm Stuart James. I'm from St. Michael, North Dakota on the Spirit Lake Reservation. I'm actually an enrolled member of MHA. My mom is from the White Shield District. Our segment. But that's grew up on the reservation, so like a lot of the music that I make is reflective of the experiences that I've kind of went through, the things that I've seen, personal experiences. It's never, I think that one of the things that was missing from like the native space was that a personal perspective of kind of like reservation life. I think a lot of it was really stereotypical or like kind of derivative of big name like rappers at the time. So like, a lot of the older rappers, all kind of sounded like what other rappers did from like the hood. And it wasn't, to me, it felt really like cookie cutter. Like it felt really generic. It felt like it wasn't really reflective of natives on the res, because I mean, natives are rugged. We especially from there, like the way we talk, the way we act is just like, it's goofy, but it's like really unique and it's really us. And I feel like in the music, people don't really reflect that very well. So we kind of get, poor representation because of that. So I always wanted to be that artist that was very reflective of the realities from there, in my personality and who I am. Even in the music, sometimes I pick goofy beats, sometimes I pick serious stuff. It's all about who I am and what I know, compared to there's a lot of artists out there right now that kind of just take the slang and try to make something catchy out of it, but they never really grew up on the res. And that's kind of what I saw back then. But yeah, so I mean, I make music. I've been sober since 2011. I think it's like November 7th, around there or something.
Oh, that's a long time.
And the last time I actually drank was in the Sitting Bull dorm over at Tribes. And everybody was like, there was like a couple guys in there rapping and freestyling, and I went in there. I heard them, went in there, and then they were all like, they were all just freestyling, rapping, and I jumped in. These guys were like, "Oh, where are you from? Who are you?" Blah, blah. And then, anyways, at the end of it, they all had a bottle of Lord Calvert. And I remember like I never even, so like when I was growing up, it was all like cheap vodka. That was like the thing we drank at home when I was like a teenager. And so anyways, they swung that bottle, and I just like, I don't even know why, I just grabbed it and just, tried to look cool, tried to look cool, pretty much instinct, showing bubbles, acting like cool, And then after that, I remember I went back to my room and I like laid there and I was like, why'd you do that?
Yeah.
I was like, why'd you even do that? And I was like, I don't know. Like I was having this whole conversation with myself as the warmness was taking over. Like I could feel, the buzz started coming. I was just like, what are you doing? Like, is that what you're gonna do? You're gonna be one of those guys that you said you wouldn't be. And then I just like had this like, I don't know, breakthrough maybe or a breakdown. I don't know, but it was after that. A few days later, we ended up going to Pine Ridge for this guy we knew was kind of learning about ceremony, and he asked if we wanted to go, you know, because I went to a UEP ceremony like earlier that year, and it kind of interested me. So then we ended up going down there and started learning about it. And I think that was when I made my decision, like, hey, I'm not doing this no more. Like, I'm not gonna. It was like on smoke signals.
Yeah.
Not doing this no more, you know. But I kind of made that decision, and then after that, kind of got into like ceremonial ways and still did the music. But me and my brother, we, you know, started singing and doing it that way. So we sing at Sundances every year. Every now and then we'll sing at powwows and stuff. But like we just, you know, kind of go to in EPs, UEPs, and that's like our thing now. We sing, and it's kind of what we're known for more than the music, which is kind of funny. But starting to, you know, but I think that's because I always put rap second to like the culture.
Okay.
Because even when I was rapping, I mean, like it helped writing about all these issues, and it helps the sobriety. Like whenever I'm having a hard time and I feel like flipping out or something, I'll just start writing stuff and then end up, or just putting that into like making a song. But at the same time, when I first started making music, it was, you know, my cousins, I ain't gonna put them on blast, but like we had a group back home, and we just like, we love making music. We all wanted to rap. We all wanted to make it somewhere, but there was a lot of alcohol involved with that. So when we first started, it was like I was always kind of hesitant about going over there and recording with them because there was always a drink there somewhere. So it was like, even in the thing that keeps me sober now was actually one of the things that almost put me in a spot where I was like, could have, you know, went worse with it. But it, over time I learned through like ceremonies and culture, like that, you know, that's not our way. That's not who we are. And I always kind of, my interpretation of it was like, that's weak to do that stuff, you know, I because it's like, it's harder to deal with real life than it is to just say, you know, F it and just go do all that. Like that's easy to do, you know. It's harder to sit there and really sit with your own feelings. And I think that's why music is the way it is, because I learned how to like sit there with it and learned how to express it in a healthy way. So that was kind of a little background as to, you know, what led to now.
Well, that's definitely like another outlet like that nobody kind of speaks about, you know, because for a person that's being in recovery myself, you know, I didn't know how to express any kind of feelings, you know. I didn't know how to express anger, right? Or I knew how to express anger, right? You know, but I didn't know how to express gratitude and love and compassion and all of those things, right? You know, and it was just like, what do I do with my life, right? You know, so I mean, it makes sense that you would just write some music and express yourself in that way, right? So you've been pretty open about your recovery through this change, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and like we were talking about earlier, was like, you know, I had asked a few questions to people, like, what's your definition of in recovery? And that was kind of an interesting conversation that sparked from that, because it's kind of true. Like, you know, it's like some people, when we talk about wellness, like, you know, what avenue of wellness are we talking? Physical wellness, emotional wellness? So like in recovery, it was always like, I had this realization about myself where I don't do a 12-step program, but I haven't drank since 2011. But I also don't have the urges too much to want to drink. But there's times where, like, when I get overwhelmed with like life in general, part of me is just like, man, I bet one would just, I'd feel good if I had, like, you know,
Cold Budweiser, huh?
No, I never liked beer. I don't know. It was always, I kind of skipped that and went straight to like the hard shit. But
the good effect, huh? The better,
the quick
effect,
one, the quick one hits harder, hits quicker.
Hits
But
the bloodstream better. Huh?
but it was like one of those things where, like, you know, I kind of realized about myself was like, what my definition of like alcoholism or having a problem was that it's ruining your life. But when I was like first started getting into alcohol, I didn't really have a life. I was 6, I think first time I drank I was like 14. So like I didn't really have a life to begin with. You know, I was still in school, high school and stuff. So like in my mind, I'm like, you don't have a problem because it's not ruining your life. But then when I started reflecting on it, I was like, holy fuck, almost every chance we got or every opportunity there was, we took it to like drink. So it was like, it was already on the way towards that, where it was like any given night of the week, it was like, hey, do you want to go? And it was like, yeah. And then it was like, could be the next night and be like, you want to go, I got some, you want some? He's like, yeah. And then it got to a point where even like, we had some of the boys back home that I grew up with, like, they were like sneaking 4 Lokes into like water bottles and going into school with it. And we'd go in the bathroom and I'd be sitting right there with, so it was just like, looking back, I realized like that it actually was a problem because I could have got myself in trouble a lot, could have, a lot of dumb stuff. And so it made me realize like, just because I didn't view it as that doesn't mean that there was actually a problem. So it's like perspective on everything. Like, some people believe if it drags your life down to rock bottom, well, you have a problem and you overcame that, so that's applaudable. But it was like, I think I just had enough sense because of like my parents, my family always made me aware that, you're at high risk and very susceptible to becoming an alcoholic or an addict, because on both sides of the family, the parents were alcoholics. So it was like, I always had like a conscience about it. And I think if I didn't, I wouldn't care. But I'm also very like a heavy overthinker. So like in my mind, I'm like analyzing everything 10 years from now, right now, and so it was always like, is this what you want to be doing 10 years from now? You still want to be drinking, you still want to be doing all this and trying to make it in music. Like, you have to pick one or the other. So it was like, I think it was like the dream and the passion was stronger than the urge to go do all that, because it was like, I've seen enough of this. Like, we lost friends growing up. I'm sure everybody lost friends growing up, but it was like, in some of the worst ways, like car accidents and stuff. Like, I had a good friend that like, he was sauced up and he shot himself, but he didn't die right away. So he spent like about a week brain dead. So it was like all those experiences is like, damn, like if I never had a great experience with alcohol. Like, I never once was like, oh, this is gonna be fun. Then you go out and do it and it was actually fun. There was always some chaos that came with it. And to me, it was like realizing like, yo, there's nothing good that comes from this shit, like, at all. Because it's like everything we did always ended in a fight, always ended in an argument, something always, like, every time.
There was like always that one moment I thought when I was in my addiction, right, that there was nothing happened, there was no fights going on, I didn't get beat up, right, and I'm like, yes, I think I overcame this, and I think next time's gonna be way better, right, and it always turned out worse, right? And it's just. So at what point did you come to the realization of like, you need to change your life, or you need something different in your life, right? Did something happen, or were you just in that deep pit?
I think it might have been like the spiritual side of things, because I remember when I first, like, because my dad brought us into Sweat when we were really young, and I remember there was always that foundation of like something. And I remember when I was like 11 or 12, I started feeling like I could feel everybody's emotions, and I don't know why it's always been that way. Like I'm like, I go to therapy and stuff, and I remember my therapist was talking to me about being an overthinker, and I started breaking it down. I was like, yeah, I do overthink a lot of things. I was like right now, I was like, I'm thinking about this, but then what starts to bug me is I start thinking about this and how this is related to this thing over here. And as I was explaining it, I could feel like my chest getting tighter, and I could feel like my heart rate rising. And I asked her, I was like, do you feel uncomfortable? And she was like, she looked at me funny, and I was like, because I could feel that. Like, I could feel you getting anxious listening to me talk, because it was like very, it was kind of like, but
did it almost feel like a panic attack?
Yeah, like it almost felt like, oh shit, I need to like calm down, but it was her stuff, I think, is what she was feeling listening to me talk about. And so I felt that my whole life. So like a lot of times that was kind of what I realized maybe that's a spiritual thing. At some point it kind of clicked after we got into like the ceremonial way. There were certain things they would tell us about certain things, and I started realizing like, oh shit, that everything in my life up to that point might have been a spiritual thing. So it kind of scared me to realize like, what happens if you don't take care of your spirit? What happens if you don't take care of that side? And it was like one of those things where it's like I felt some bad stuff, but I was like, I don't want to know what the rest of that feels like. I don't want to know what that would feel like if I lose myself. And it kind of scared me straight, I think, and it made me realize like that ain't the way. So it was like kind of just a no-brainer. It's like most people, like if they have a kid, they're like, I got to get my life together. But that doesn't always equate to the success of that actually happening. the thought is there, but the action sometimes isn't there because not everything is aligned. So it's like, you know, your mind, your heart, your spirit, and like everything needs to be like aligned into something that you believe in order to actually see that light to it. And I think that's what music showed me, was like I had a dream, not just a dream, but something that was tangible, something that was seen, something that was in front of me, that was within reach, which made me like believe more into it. And that was kind of what I think pulled me out of it, was just realizing that if I don't put everything into this, I'm gonna go and be, you know, one of my uncles. I mean, you know, I think he's been drinking since he was like 12. To this day, he's probably, I don't know how he finds it every day, but he's probably buzzed up right now. And that's scary, because it's like, man, you know, that's like 40 some years.
Yeah, that's a long time.
And some people are okay with that because that's all they've known. But it was like, for me, it's like I don't want to know what that's like, because I've seen it already. But it was just like, I think I had a little more sense than others, or maybe it was the anxiety and overthinking that kind of brought me to that point. But that is kind of where I'm at with it now, is like just understanding that I have something to work towards. And I think that I heard it at one of the res recovery events. This guy was saying, like, I don't remember his name, but he said, when you take those bad things out of your life, you have to replace it with something good.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people stop this, but don't replace it with something. So then they get bored. Yeah. And then that usually leads to like something bad happening again.
Straying off, right?
Yeah.
I learned something in recovery. It was like one of the profound moments of my recovery. The opposite of addiction is connection, right? You know, and when I heard that, it was just like, it gave me chills, right? You know, it made sense, right? You know, and I had no sense of like, of spirituality, right? You know, even though I'm native, I'm dark, right? You know, and I'm very dark, right? That it should be like spiritual, right? You know, or sing like because I used to like sing like a little bit when I was younger, right? You know, but like all that stopped when like the role models like stopped coming around, you know, and even those role models were kind of like tipsy a little bit here and there, right? You know, and so like that part of your culture, like when did you realize that this is like something that was going in the right path?
I think I remember this one year, I think we were in Sweat, and I was just praying about like, basically I was like praying for, you know, people that I know, because they always tell us like, don't pray for yourself. And over time, that perspective for me kind of changed too. But like, because it's like, you know, who's going to pray for us then if we don't pray for ourselves all the time? So anyway, but I was like praying for some of my buddies that I knew who made music. And I remember shortly after that, they got like this really big gig. And I was like, oh shit, like this actually kind of works. And maybe that was already going to happen. Maybe it was already in place, or maybe whatever, you know, I don't know. But that was a moment where I was like, holy shit. Yeah. Like, I wonder if that prayer helped. And if it did, this is kind of cool to pray for other people. And I think that's where I realized, like, especially on the sobriety part of it, like when you are like sober, you see a lot more than most people do. Like I remember when I was younger, when we would drink and stuff, I didn't care. I didn't care about nothing. I was kind of like, I didn't really start shit, but like I always had that little like urge to want to just instigate something. Like if two people were arguing, I'd be sitting back like, oh, hit him. Like, damn, you can let him talk to you like that, like, you know. But I just sit back. Like, if that was me, like I just sit back and just bark and just hope like something popped off. Because I mean, I think a part of me was like, chaotic behavior was kind of. I mean, it wasn't normal in our house, but my parents, they worked a lot, so like they were gone a lot, and then I had 4 siblings we was living with, and 5 actually, and so there was 6 kids in there. So the chaos was kind of normal, but it wasn't normal, but it was normalized because they weren't there to supervise everything. So for me, it was like all of my behaviors with alcohol were all related to the chaos with the siblings. And those siblings experienced, you know, like, because my mom and dad took a lot of kids in. And so basically what they experienced, they brought to our home. And then they did it to us, me and my brother. So then it was just one of those things where like I was reliving and kind of displaying some of those behaviors from what they did when I would drink. So when I got drunk, I'd sit back and hope, and I literally just hope somebody would start shit with me. And even if I got beat up, I didn't care, because it was just like that was what was normal. So when I would drink, it was just bad, and I was just like I started seeing that, and I was like.
It's almost like we like chaos, right? If
Yeah.
it's not happening in our life, like I'm gonna go cause some trouble, right? You know, or I'm gonna go talk some smack, right? Or I'm gonna start some gossip, right? You know, or just pick on one of the bros, right? You know, that's not stronger than me, right? You know. So you're from Spirit Lake, right? You know, I don't know if it was a rough life or not, right? You know, or you came into culture, right? You know, and you start singing, right? You know, you start writing music, right? And how did that even come about? One day I was like, or I'm writing some music one day. Like, how did that even come about?
It was well, I've always loved music. Like I always listened to, like, some of the first like people that I got into was like Jimi Hendrix, and I remember like there was a song called "If Six Was Nine," and it was kind of how I feel about life pretty heavily. Where in that song he's basically saying like, if 6 was 9, like what the fuck's that got to do with me?
Yeah.
And it just resonated with me, because I'm like, when I see other people's stuff and whatever they're doing in life, I'm like, do what you do. That don't bother me. I got my own life to live over here. Like when it, like in that song, he says, "I'm the one that's got to die when it's time for me to die. So I'm gonna live my life the way I want to." And that was just always cool to me. I don't know why, because it was just like free. It was like free from, and I think that's what I was searching for, was like freedom from anxiety, freedom from judgment, or freedom from all these different things that were kind of like bothering me. So musically, I remember I started writing. I like tried to write a rhyme once, because we had like a poetry thing in middle school, and I in my mind, right, I wrote it, and I was like, damn, that's actually kind of fire.
Yeah.
Like I thought of that, but I didn't want to show nobody. But then I hear other people's poems, and I'm like,
Yeah. Mine's way better.
it wasn't that mine was better. It was just like y'all just like that wasn't that good.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, I'm sitting there with mine, and I'm like,
Not saying that.
this is actually kind of good
Yeah.
compared to them. And then over time, it was just like whenever they had like writing things or even like speech class, I was always like in a different frame of mind than most people. So, anyways, my cousins, they used to, Ryan, Dirty Mocs, Dirty Moccasins. Yeah. Him and my other cousin, Chance, they were making music. So like we ended up, linking up, and that was the first time I went over. I said it before. It was like, man, it was like Native American Idol.
Yeah.
Just kind of like went in, like rapped, and they were like, oh, you actually got something. And then it was like, so we just like recorded a lot, and then we started doing shows and stuff. And that's kind of where that came about, because that was like the foot in the door. So my cousin Chance was, even before I wanted to rap, we would go visit him. He worked overnight security at one of the places back home, and we go kick it, and he would just make beats. And I thought that was just cool to see him like cooking up stuff. And so anyways, fast forward, when I wanted to get into it, it was there for me. So ended up doing that. And then from then on, I think, I don't know what year it was, but he moved away for a bit. And then like he let me keep his mic. And I remember I just started going crazy with it, recording stuff, putting stuff out. And it wasn't like, I know it wasn't good at the time. Like I knew that in my head. I was like, this doesn't sound where I want it to sound. It doesn't sound good, but I'm gonna keep doing it, because I know it's like, in my mind, I'm like, there's no way this is not gonna get better if I keep doing it. So it was always like this stupid belief that I had in myself, because everything up to that point that I picked up, like I kind of got good at it. So I just had that mentality and kept doing that with music, and over time it just kind of evolved into more of like, what do you want to talk about? What are you going to talk about? And it was always that, like I said, that void in native hip hop that was always missing was organic, authentic people, genuine people, because there was always this persona that, like, when I first went to rap shows, a lot of them were wearing the baggy South Pole. They were wearing the baggy polos.
I remember the South Poles, yeah.
So it was like they were wearing all that stuff, but they were emulating a big name mainstream artist.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, okay, that's not like, some people dress like that around here, but I don't. The people that I hang out with, they don't. People I hang out with think that shit's corny. So it was like, I was like, it was more to like, what's true to us, what's true to me. So that's what I started kind of making the music about, and really kind of gearing it towards that, because I realized when you do it that way, it's a lot more relatable to people, because that's what people see.
Yeah.
We don't see flashy ass people on the res. And it's kind of this messed up thing, right? Like me trying to be humble about it. People don't really acknowledge me like that. Like, you know, back home, like people, oh, what's up? What's up? You know, like they always want to keep you humble. But yet you get somebody else who acts like that, acts like the rapper, shows up with chains, shows up with everybody's just kissing their ass. So it's just this weird thing. Like, what do you have to do to get your people to support you? You know what I mean? Yeah. And I realize it's always the ones that know you the most are probably going to support you the least because they know you. Yeah. And they feel they're closer to you than they are to that person. So it's like, because they're close to you, there might be some enviousness. There might be some jealousy. There might be some kind of thing that like, I wanted to do that. And that's why I found out most people that I have a problem with or people that had a problem with me usually wanted to rap at one point. Yeah. They just quit and I didn't. So then they have this like thing towards me. So I'm like, you know, like I was always over analyzing, like, why does this person have a problem with me? What did I do to them? And I realized none of them, they just hate that I'm still doing what they wanted to do. They got kids now. They got, you know, all this stuff. They didn't chase what they wanted. So then they kind of see me as like this reflection of what they could have been almost, like, you know, so it I
bet that's hard, huh?
It is because I care about what people think too much sometimes, but I care about how people feel too. And I don't like that feeling of like, it's almost like, you know, like when we were growing up, if I got in a fight with somebody and I beat them up, I'd feel bad. Like I haven't gotten in a whole lot of fights in my life, but the ones that I did, if I like, you know, undefeated so far, no, but like the fights I got into, one and all, but it was like, you know, even like boxing growing up, like we'd box with our, you know, like our cousins and stuff, and you know, if they get a bloody nose or something, I'm like, oh, fuck, like I feel kind of bad. Yeah, I should never did that. So it's like this really big like kind of conflict where it's like I care about what you think and I care about what you feel, but it's like I'm still gonna keep doing what I do, and if you feel a way, I just kind of learned at this point, it's just like, well, that's your feelings. I don't have to take that on. I don't gotta care about that, because if it bothers you that bad, go do something about it then. Go, but leave me alone. I didn't do nothing to you.
Yeah, I remember meeting you. It was some years ago. Not saying like years ago. It had to have been
21, I think.
Yeah, 2021. It was out at Jarrett Baker's. We sweated together, and I didn't even know who you were at the moment, right? You know, and you had prayed, right? You know, and you kind of sounded like you were kind of down and out. And I made an attempt to talk with you, right? Get to know you, you know, and come to find out that you're this rapper, right? You know, and from Spirit Lake, right? I remember of Spirit Lake when I was younger. I used to do taekwondo.
Oh yeah.
And we go around to each res, do like karate shows, you know what I mean, or breaking boards and doing forms or whatever, you know. And but I that was the only time that I think I was ever in Fort Taunton. I've been there a few times now since, right? You know, and seeing that someone that's rapping, right, you know, going to ceremonial ways, right, you know, and being this role model, right, you know, like, where are you at with like the kids today?
Yeah, I remember when I was like, this was like 2014. One of my uncles, I was talking to him, and he was like, "Man, he's like, you really got to be careful what you say, be careful how you act." And I was just like, at that time, I was like, "Why? You know, I don't care." And he was like, "Well, you should." He's like, "Because people are looking up to you." And I was like, "Well, I don't want them to." And he's like, "It's too bad. They do." Yeah. He's like, "You're sober. You do this. You do that." And it was like almost like a responsibility I didn't want. Yeah. And he was like,
it's a tough responsibility.
And he was like, you just got to, you know, and he's like, "I'm not saying you got to do anything. I'm just making you aware of the fact that people look up to you." And it kind of like stuck in my head. So after that, it was like, I changed a lot of the way that I was like doing my music and the way that anyways, like this big change came about after suffering some hardship, and it just kind of clicked where I'm like, man, like, you're good enough now to where you can create what you want to create in the way that you want to create it. Before, it was always like I had to do things a certain way. Like I had to play a beat and let the beat take me wherever it was. Now it was like I was controlling what type of beat I wanted. I was controlling what type of mood I wanted to create, so, you know, and as a songwriter, that's a really hard thing to do at first, because you just need to get the words out first. You don't even care about the music. So like now it got to a point where, anyways, this is still not with your question, but it was like I started realizing that I need to make music that means something more than, because a lot of the early rap was like about how good I was. It was like braggadocious, you know, and it was like, okay, that's cool. So what are you telling people, that you're the shit? Like, oh, that's so cool, you know? And it was like, but it was like, it was cool to have like control, because when people used to hate on me when I was younger, it was like I took power back from them every time I made a song like that, because it was like, tell me I'm whack now, tell me, you know, like rap better than me, you know, and then I realized, I just think I matured because of what I went through at that time, where I was like, there's kids out there that need to hear what you needed to hear. So it was like, there's kids that's where it started, was like, I had this song called Tiwahe, and like, that was the song that I wrote during like one of the hardest points in my life. So when I wrote that, it was just reflective, like I said, of like everything I was seeing. It wasn't like I was trying to like give people the solution. I wasn't trying to fix the problem. It was just like, this is what I see and this is what I feel about what I see. So anyways, that kind of led me into this path where people started relating to that. Like kids would relate to that, younger people would relate to that. So then it kind of brought me into this space where I was like, damn, everything my uncle said is like a lot more evident now than it ever has been. So what I started doing was I started kind of finding a way to like do something to give back in a way. So what I was got to this point where I was like, man, like I started doing, I was a boxing coach, still am, registered U.S. boxing coach, and me and
Oh wow.
one of my, you know, Corey Rabbithead.
Yes, that's my he's actually my first cousin.
Yeah, he came to Spirit Lake because he reached out to me on some music stuff, and was like, because he does music too, and he was like, man, I just really respect you. I met him at Tribes, but I called him and asked him like, can you come help me? You know, we want to start a boxing team. So he came and helped, and so I got into it then. But I always loved boxing growing up. So anyways, like we started that team, and like I never got in a ring, never fucking fought officially, but like growing up, we would always like, you know, all the boys would just scrap each other, you know. but it was one of those things where like I realized something. I was like, these guys are fighting with gloves on, like I'm boxing over here, because the guys who would just come at you swinging like crazy, and I'd just step back, hit them with a jab, and they couldn't do nothing about it. And it was just something that simple, which made me realize there's a big difference between like fighting and boxing. And like, so it always amused me growing up. But anyways, Corey came over. We had a team. We had about 15 consistent boxers for about 5-6 months. And then he ended up going back to partial, and we started like taking them around to fights and stuff. And so I learned a lot of how to deal with youth during that time. But then it led to me doing workshops where we teach the kids how to write. And when they, we do like these writing exercises that help them express themselves. And then through that, they end up, we teach them basic poetry, basic like understanding of music. And then we actually, my buddy Jansonia helps me with that. So like he'll make the beat, and we'll do this thing like, who's your favorite rapper? So he'll make a beat in the style of whoever most people call out. So if somebody said like, who's your favorite rapper? And they said Eminem, if there was like 10 people out of the 15 kids, we'd make a beat that sounds like an Eminem beat or whatever, just to kind of get them relative with what, anyways. So we'll make that beat, and then we'll take what they wrote and help them turn it into lyrics. And then we end up teaching them how to record it. Yeah. And then they record what they wrote, they rap it out, and then we do a video to all of that. So like that's kind of where I'm at now, is like, that's my way of like helping them. And in, you know, like a lot of people overlook it because they're always like, oh, so they're making a rap song. Yeah. Oh, they're learning. And it's like it just kind of goes right over the head, because it's like, no, we're teaching them teamwork. We're teaching them expression. We're teaching them like leadership skills. We're teaching them to try something new, open your horizons. And it teaches so much in there, getting out of your comfort zone and having trust in people, feeling safe to create stuff. Like there's just so many different aspects that go into it. But people, a lot of times when I try to pitch it to people or schools, they're like, so they're just going to make a rap song. And it's like,
well, they see the video, right? They see like the persona of what that rap life is about, right? You know, from videos, right? You know, that are not influenced. I mean, they're influenced, but they're like influencing the wrong way, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So how do you get the kids to be like more mindful, right, of their surroundings when they're writing this, right? Do you like calm them down, right? You know, or you have them write down things, right? You know, or you just like, what do you guys do?
So the first thing we do is I actually like kind of borrowed it from J. Cole. He said that he does like a 7-minute drill where he'll just write anything for 7 minutes. He'll just write. Doesn't have to make sense. You could just be like, yo, I was tired this morning and I was mad because of this. So you just write anything.
Yeah.
And the point is to get your mind, it's like warming up for a run. Like you're stretching and you're jogging, then you start your run. It's kind of like that. It gets your mind going into, because like what that does too is it kind of filters out things you didn't know were in there. So if you're just free writing, that's what some people call it, free writing, but you're just writing whatever, you might have a feeling that bugged you the other day that you didn't know, and then it comes out in that. So then what we did, we'd do that, and then we would translate that into like, okay, this is how you write a poem. So now what you're going to do is you're going to take what you learned over here and what you learned over here and put them together. So now you're going to free write a poem, and then you can go back and fix it, whatever. But the thing is a lot of people won't even begin to write because they want the perfect idea. Everybody wants, like, writing verses. Everybody wants the perfect start, the perfect whatever. So anyways, I was always kind of saying, like, there's no such thing as, like, a perfect idea. You just take your idea, put it down, then perfect your idea after. But there's no perfect idea. There's no perfect way to start it. Sometimes you just got to start it, go, and then along the way you go back and fix it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like, you know, the way I've kind of treated my life was like having that belief in like spirituality is like, I didn't know what I was doing when I got into it. I just knew what I wanted to do. And I knew that if I just at least have some kind of belief that it'll get to where I want it to be. But you have to like literally just let go of like whatever you think you know, and then just put it in the hands of that and then just keep going. So that's kind of what I learned about spirituality. And that's kind of what carried me through music is like, I don't know. I had, 2 gigs last month. I don't have one lined up this month, but that could change tomorrow. That could change a week from now. So it's like, I just have belief that it's going to be okay. Yeah. But a lot of people need things in place in order to do something. And especially when you're chasing dreams, you can't think like that. Like, otherwise I need this before I do this. I need this. Like, nah.
Everything's got to be in place before I can do something.
Yeah. Well, it's like nowadays people ask me about like music, like I want to get a studio, I want to get this. I'm like, bro, you have more tools now than I ever did. Like I had to learn how to do a lot of shit just to record a song. Yeah. Now they have apps on the phone. You can just buy the headphones and record a whole song on the phone. Thought I had that when I was growing. Like I might be better than I am now. I don't know. But
did you have the hustle and flow? Just hustle and flow studio. Turn off the fan.
yeah. No, it was. Well, like when we first started, there was like we had like a live mic. We like these. We didn't have these. We didn't, like they're so accessible now. Like back then it was like we had to have the whole mixer, had to have everything set up just to record, and then the way that we recorded was very, it was like we had to use 2 separate programs. So you had to use this one to play the beat because we didn't know how to simultaneously record on the same program. So you had to play one over here, you had to play the beat on this, and you had to open up another program and record the vocals in this one. Then you had to export those vocals and then go put them into the other one. So it was like we figured it out a lot. And but nowadays when people ask me like, what do I need for a studio? I'm like, do you have an iPhone? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, go to YouTube. YouTube didn't come out till like 2009. I didn't even have YouTube growing up. So it was like I wasn't till 16 or 17 and they didn't even have tutorials on any of this shit. Like so it was like we literally had to figure it out. And I think that's why I do believe this generation's spoiled, because they have everything they need at the right in their hand. But they're still, well, what do I do? It's like man, like I think Logic said it in one of his songs. He was like a bunch of dumbasses with smartphones. But it's like that was kind of like all that to kind of say like I feel like I had to go through all of that to simplify. Like I had to learn how to do it all these different ways to simplify it in order to teach them. So you learn all this stuff, try all these different ways, and just to tell them this is what it is. Yeah. And I feel like I was talking to my brother because we were talking about like we were just having a conversation about sobriety too, me and my brother, and he kind of said that he was like, a lot of people are so stubborn, they go try their way. Well, I'm gonna try my way, and then they relapse, or I'm gonna go do this, and then they relapse, and then it's like all these different things just to go back to what grandma or grandpa told you in the first place. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like
I think somewhere in the 12 book program book it says see where spiritual people are right, you're right. And I didn't even want to believe that the church people are right, or that spiritual guy was right. And when I was first in treatment, we're talking about how you like write your songs, right? They told me to because I was so messed up in the head. My head was just all over. Couldn't think. I was full of fear. I was thinking into the future, thinking into the past. And they told me just to journal. And I'm like, oh, no way. I'm not gonna journal. I don't even want to write. So I tried it anyways. I started journaling, and they told me just like what you said, write until you can't write no more. Write until you can't think no more, right? And I'm writing down all these things. I would be a bad songwriter, right? So as I'm writing all these things, and I'm just writing everything down, and I think I wrote like 3 or 4 pages, and it was probably like 11 minutes, and I looked at it because I didn't even, as I'm writing, I didn't even like bother to read. I was just writing, and I looked at it and was like, oh my God, like I'm insane.
Yeah.
You know, like what is the matter with me? You know? And I come to recovery, and people want to get sober, stop using drugs and alcohol, and there's a spiritual side to it, right? I didn't know there was a spiritual side to it. You know, I said I believed in God, but I didn't have an understanding of God. So yeah, that's my little like experience of like writing and journaling, you know, and my muscle memory, right? You know, so do you remember when you made your first song? What was that like? Or did you make a song or put it to whatever we had back then?
Yeah.
You know?
I remember one of the first songs I ever did and put out was actually it was a diss track to this other kid from back home.
A diss track.
A diss track. So that kind of gives you a fucking idea of who I am as a person. But like, that was the first thing I wrote because like I remember this kid. I'm not even gonna give him credit. I'm not even nothing against him. I was just like it's just so like whack from in perspective. But like this kid was like he sounded cool. He had like a cool voice. He knew how to rap, but he was just talking like gangster shit, you know. And I'm like, bro, I ride bus with you every day. Like you live with your grandpa. You were scared to fight at school. What gun? You know, like that was like my perspective. Like what the fuck, you know? And but he was getting a lot of love for it, and everybody was like bragging up how cool he was, and I was like, you know, like it was just like what? And it just I don't know. I just kind of I got obsessed with the fact that like this kid's lying, and for me, I love old school hip hop, and a lot of old school hip hop people would call that stuff out. So for me, I was like, man, that was the first thing I ever put out was like a diss track because I was like, yo, this kid's like, just kind of called out everything I knew about him. And that kind of became my thing because like there was a couple rappers that wanted to like try to have beef with me, and I'd go, like they thought Drake and Pusha T was bad or like Drake and Kendrick was bad. Like bro, I was going on their Facebook, finding pictures, and I make a video, like as I'm rapping, I'd be making fun of certain things that posts they made or pictures or whatever. I was just like, I'll go above and beyond to try to like, but I realized in retrospect that was really whack. But that's what I was doing at first because it was like, I just could not stand how bad that made natives look to act like that. So it was kind of in a justifiable way. It was like defense of like our people because it's like that's not who we are. That's not what we're about. So it was like that was like my thinking back then. But yeah, it was dumb. But that was like my first few songs were like songs like that.
So how do you stay inspired to write these things and speak about it into your music or add your culture into your music? You know, because I've downloaded some of your music on, and the first one that I liked was I think it's called Speak For or
Yep. Well, I think the inspiration like on anything is I just put a video out this on Instagram, and I was explaining like creative process about how a lot of times we want to create something a lot, like we want to, but the best inspiration comes when you don't even think about it. And so like there's times where like I was at like we were at Sundance one day, and I was like, man, I started thinking about all these different like bars and stuff, and like I was like, man, I don't have my phone back here. I can't have it back here. And it was like, but it was just like there was just all these things that were like hitting my mind where I was like, fuck, that's cool, you know. But it was like, so anyways, being inspired for me is like just living. You know, you let go of the artist part of it. You let go of the creator part of it. You let go of all these elements of who you are outside of who you are, and like you just be you, but you also be ready to kind of have that paper to jot that down. You be ready to grab that idea and store it for later or whatever. But that's kind of what I learned, is that, like, you know, if you spend too much time, and I've heard this from rappers, you spend too much time in the studio, you spend too much time trying to create something, you run out of things to create. And so it's like letting life kind of like bring those ideas, letting the universe bring those ideas to you is kind of the way. But even then, that's like the hard part, because as an artist, if you're trying to, you know, for me, I'm trying to be a full-time artist, which I'm like 75% of the way there. I still got to work, still got to whatever to pay the bills. But like, some of those songs come once a month. So, you know, if you want to put out a 16 song album, 16 months, you got to, you know, but it's also, they also say like making music and hits are like fishing, you know, you can't catch a fish if you don't show up. So like for me, I have to like sit down and make time for that. And, you know, life isn't that nice anymore I mean, it's nice, I love my life, but it's not convenient like that for me to sit down the way I did when I lived on the res, because I live in Fargo now. So like, you gotta go to work. On the res, I could sit there all day and make 5 songs a day, because I didn't have a job. I didn't have certain responsibilities. So I was just like cooking everything up, like, you know, and so letting that inspiration come in a different way now. Before it was like, I wanted to see what music could bring me. And I did see a lot of what it could bring me, but I also realized that some of that stuff I don't really actually want. So it's like one of those things, you kind of got to go see all this stuff to know you don't want it. And what I mean by that is like the industry. Like I got to see certain parts of like the music industry and I worked with Taboo from Black Eyed Peas, and I got to see Black Eyed Peas studio. And that was really cool. And it's not like, you know, I saw anything bad there, but it was the outside people of that, like the way people treat you when you don't have value to them. Like Taboo, and they treated me good. You know, they were really nice. They were really, you know, he was always pushing me. You got to get this music done, whatever. But then outside of that studio, and some of the other people I met that weren't so good people, it's like once they saw value in you, then they treated you really well. And I remember it was like kind of like I seen it and I was like, man, like this is a bunch of fake people, a bunch of like people who only want to be around you when they see that you can bring them money or have some kind of value to them. And so anyways, for a while there, that kind of made me depressed. I was like, man, like I saw certain levels and saw how it is there. And I'm like, that's what, like I said, that's what refocused everything into like, why am I dying so hard to be accepted into this music scene over here with people who don't even know who I am or people who don't understand what it means to be native, when I could be putting all that energy into making music for those people that are just like me. So it was like I had to like let go of certain aspects of the dream to kind of make way for the music that I make now, which is like the speak for and stuff, because, you know, it's like people like us can relate to that more than people over there can. So it
just hits different too when you know that you live that life and you hear it and I'm like, man, that song went hard. Has your art ever surprised you or taught you something about yourself?
I think it taught me how messed up my head really is sometimes. Like, there's this line from Jay-Z on a song called "Welcome to the Jungle," and he said, I'm a tortured soul. I live in disguise. Rest in peace to the leader of the Jackson 5. And I don't know like what he said, like, I'm a tortured soul. I live in disguise. And that's kind of like when there's certain lines in music that just hit. And that was one of them where I was like, man, like, I really do have, like, even the way I think sometimes, like, I remember there's like some of those Wategli songs in Lakota after they killed Custer. And I heard, and I might be wrong, I'm just basing off of what someone has told me, but there's a song in those celebration songs after they killed Custer, and he's in the words in it kind of say something about like, my friend, there was a battle to the north, like, where were you? So it was almost like dissing on the ones who didn't come help. So a part of me was like worried, like, am I fucked up in the head or something? But then I realized, like, because when I first started making music, it was like diss tracks. So when I kind of heard that, it kind of brought this peace of mind where it's like, so are like diss tracks kind of traditional? Like, is that running the blood, you know?
Yeah.
Because that's what one of those songs, from my understanding, were one of the victory songs was them making fun of the natives that didn't show up to help fight against Custer.
Yeah.
So I was like, I wonder if like, you know, I wonder if those things come from, you know, maybe, I don't know, but it kind of, I think that's one of the moments that kind of shocked me where I was like, I thought I was wrong for making a lot of songs like that, or I thought I was wrong for talking like that, and so like calling out the BS or whatever. Realized like maybe that's actually what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know, because I notice a lot of people are afraid to speak. I on Facebook, I'm kind of a menace sometimes. Like I'll get in these spurts where I'm just like I'll just get annoyed because I hold back a lot. Like I'll see people posting just random stuff, and I'll just make fun of stuff. Like, but some of those things are like true. Like I be doing some of that, so I'm calling myself out, and then people will get mad at me, unfriend me for calling something, and I'm like, yo, I'm not even talking about nobody. I'm talking about me right now. But I don't know. It just I realize like I irk a lot of people sometimes with what I have to say.
You
but
and Tyler, huh?
But it's also like it's also one of those things where it's like, tell me I'm wrong though.
Yeah.
Some people just like to piss people off. I don't have that mentality, but it's more like if this is wrong, I'm gonna call it out. And if you don't like it, okay, well then you might be doing that too. Then I don't know, but I'm literally calling myself out sometimes, and I laugh at it because like I learned to laugh at my mistakes sometimes, like because I didn't know any better, genuinely, you know. So I'll just kind of laugh and shake it off and keep moving, but learn from it, but. Yeah, so musically, like those are some of the moments that kind of like trip me out, where I'm like, damn, is this like, is this coming from a spiritual place? Are they telling me to say this stuff, or am I just like that cooked in my head where I'm like saying
is this a vision?
Yeah, just like
there's got to be a vision, right? So, what are you working on right now, or what's next for you?
I got an album that I'm working on called What a Life, and I was like finding ways on how to like make this album because they're like I was talking about, like it's kind of a collection of different songs that I made throughout the years that I know are like powerful songs, and so it's like, but they didn't have a place for it. So like I'll be making all these songs, and then there's one that stands out that's so out of place for what I'm working on at that time. Like I'll be making all these upbeat, cool things, and then there's just this really sad song that's just like borderline dark or whatever from stuff that I've been through. And then I'll be like, what do I do with that? And I'll be like, I don't, just put it over here for now. And then it's just always like this collection of all these different songs that come from different times that I feel like are those like you said, like a vision almost. Like it's like they're that special where I know. And when I play them at shows recently, that's what I've been doing recently, is I'll go play these new songs and people are like, when you dropping that? When, you know, I'll play it for my family, for my wife, for my brother, and they'll be like, it's like, send me that, you know, because they want to hear it. But so like that album is kind of a collection of all those types of songs. And then I did a like a mini film that kind of wraps up certain things in my career about what I'm doing right now, and I'm basically doing a rollout. I'm gonna put that out, put the songs out, and then put the album out. I'm actually trying to plan this tour around this album drop, so that way like I can go do all this big run of it real quick, and then go back to like making singles, like just songs that don't really have to have a purpose. Because I don't know, I feel like I'm kind of OCD, like I get obsessive over things. So like when I do this album, it's like I got obsessive over the idea of finishing an album. I couldn't just let these songs be. I was like, okay, I think it's time now.
Yeah.
So then I start like focusing everything onto that, and then that's kind of the next move though, is to try to get that album out and get all those other things around it going.
Where can our listeners find your work or support your work?
So I'm on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, basically all platforms. I got a YouTube, Stuart James Music, Instagram, Stuart James Music, TikTok, Stuart James Music. It's funny, on TikTok, I think I got hacked on an old one. I'd never go on TikTok, but I put this video of my brother up, and it got like over 1 million views on TikTok, and it was like, I don't know, you probably seen it. It was that one on Halloween when he's like, hey, you want to take her to this one? I got a warrant. And it's like a sheriff's house. No. Well, anyways, it went like crazy on TikTok, and it got me like 15,000 followers or something. Wow. So it wasn't even my music that got me that. But I started putting songs up and I started getting more followers after I got that following. And then I never confirmed an email. I never put like a recovery email, nothing. So anyway, it got hacked and now there's like some Chinese thing on all my old videos. So I made a new TikTok and I put like I put a video of me like singing this song up by like the sweat area. And that's like closing in on 100,000 views now. And then I put another rap song out. That's closing on like 50K. And I don't even go on there to like, so it's like TikTok kind of loves me. Even though I don't go on there that much. But anyways, so that...
it's probably the algorithm thing.
I always laugh at the algorithm. I don't even know what the algorithm is, but people they use that word a lot, like the algorithm. I'm like, I don't even know what it is. Do you know what it means?
Stuart James is an algorithm.
Well, there's one of my buddies hit me up and he's like, every day I go on to see what Stu always does something with the algorithm. I got to see what he's doing now. And I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I just put shit out.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the way I've always been. The more I tried to like plan stuff, the more that I've tried to like be organized about it, I barely see any views. When I just randomly post something up, when something tells me to, I'll just do it and then it goes crazy.
Yeah.
So, maybe that is a spiritual thing. I don't know. But like the more I've tried to have more control over everything I do, the less success I saw.
Okay.
So I'm just like letting go and being like, all right, well, it's finding that middle ground between being organized, being ready for everything, but also letting go of the control of it. Like I think as humans, we always try to control everything too much. And for me, I'm just like, I don't want to be that person.
Yeah. Is there anything that you would like to share that we didn't cover with our audience?
I think like the conversation again about like what does in recovery mean to people, because I think like I've heard, that some people don't do 12-step programs to get sober. Some people do. Some people are heavy into that. Some people, I think for me, it was like the culture and music have like helped me, try to, stay sober through all the hardship in life. But I think that there's too many humanness in everything to where, like you might ask 5 people in a room, what's your rules to life? And they all have different rules. They all have different things that they follow. And I think like the biggest message to a lot of the listeners is like, find your spirituality first. That's why I feel, because then all the answers you're looking for are kind of rooted in that. So, it's like if you don't have that spirituality, it's very easy to get sucked into anything, any avenue that's like not good. And,
but it's just like telling someone like, there's not one way to pray.
Yeah.
There's different avenues, so.
And I think that like, it's like finding our way of doing it and learning to have that that belief, learning to have that belief in the way that you feel you should be doing it. Because if you don't have that belief yourself, it's so easy for everybody to persuade you to do it their way. So it's like, like, oh, Justin, I go to sweat every week. That works for me. You might go to sweat every week. And you're like, this ain't helping me.
Yeah.
But you might go to sweat once a month or twice a month, and that helps you.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think people, the biggest thing is like, listen and be open, but putting that spirituality first to, the biggest thing with us is being open, I think, first, because I think, we always know more than the next person. We always know better. It seems like, and I don't know
how to keep you sober, but we really don't, right?
Yeah.
So, what advice would you give a young artist who is struggling or just starting their creative journey with their songwriting, their rap life, or just singing life? I guess.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be rap either,
It would be to do it on your own, and once again, having that faith, having that belief that whatever you're looking for is going to make its way to you. Because, like I had a kid reach out to me. I think he's from Newtown. I don't remember his name, but he reached out and he was just like, someone told me to get in contact with you because you might be able to help me. And I told the kid, I was like, well, and he had some music and he sent it to me and he was like, what do you think? And I was like, I think you got a lot of potential to do something. You have something to work with. You're making the effort on your own. I said, you can go a long way with that. I was like, I'm not gonna make no promises to you about being able to help you in a crazy way, but if you have questions, like I'll help you in any way that I can. But if a kid who hits me up who doesn't make that effort but says they want to, most of the time they just want what I have. They don't really actually want to do music. They just want to do what I do in the way that I do it. And I think that that's hard to work with. So like, I don't know. The best advice is like, if you really, you really got to ask yourself first if this is what you want to do or what are you willing to do for it. Because I had this younger guy was like, man, I sold all my Jordans, I had a bunch of nice shoes and I sold all that for studio time. And I was like that's dope. Could you do that again?
Yeah.
And can you do that again and again and again? Or are you willing to buy your own gear and figure out how to do it yourself? Because a lot of times people have talent, but they want you to do everything for them. They just want to show up and rap. They just want to show up and do and look the part, but they don't actually want to do all the work necessary. So biggest thing is like asking yourself, do you really want to invest your whole life? Because I'm 32. I don't have no 401k set up. It's kind of
most people don't.
Yeah, well, and I don't have I don't really have a whole lot of security behind me, but it's like I've had this stupid belief since I was like 16 that something's gonna pop, and it's like that's half my life.
Yeah.
Most people lose faith after a couple of weeks or something. I'm like sitting here still like stupidly believing something's gonna one day I'm gonna get a big show, I'm gonna get this, I don't know.
Or it's been answered, you just haven't seen it yet.
Exactly. And so like at some point, most people would probably ask me like, are you gonna hang it up? Like nah, because I still have that belief. The day I don't feel that is the day I probably will. But that's definitely after 16 years. It's like, I don't know if that day is ever gonna come, because by now it might have, where I stopped believing, but I haven't. So, that's the thing that's scary about it though, is like, that's why I said it to a lot of these artists, like, do you really want to invest all of that and do all that? And if you do, then this is for you. But if you can't see that, you don't have that type of faith, like it's gonna be really hard. So yeah.
So what message would you give our viewers for some hope, some strength, some power, whatever you might think of? What would you say?
I mean, I think what helped me a lot was realizing like my weaknesses and what I'm not good at first. And then it shows me like how to build what, sometimes if we don't know what we want, figure out what you don't want first. So, yeah, I don't know. I would say that a lot of the biggest message would be to listen, be open, and understand that like we don't know everything, and you can kind of start there, because if you're not open to suggestions or ideas, it's hard to do anything to somebody. So it's, if you talk to somebody who knows everything, it's gonna be a really whack conversation.
It is, yeah.
I know. Okay,
it's like, dang,
yeah,
just listen.
And so it's like, yeah, I mean, if you're trying to be sober, trying to be anything, whatever it is, something good. I mean, something good is a lot of hard work to do. Trying to do something good takes a lot of hard work, and got to have that determination. And I went to Oakland for a performance 2 years ago, and this guy said something really cool. He was talking about like spirituality and all that, but he said, who said it was going to be easy? And I was always stuck with me, because I was like, damn, no one ever did say that. But for some reason, I think that a lot of us want things to be easy, and there's like, might be that entitlement of like, well, I had a hard life, I had hardship, I went through all this, so things should be easy for me when I want to do. And it's like, nah. So I think being open, being willing, and believing, letting go of our ego would probably be the best advice to in anything really. Letting go of the ego, knowing that we don't know.
Yeah.
Or acknowledging that, be willing to.
The price has to be paid. It has to be ego, right?
Yeah.
Well, I just want to behalf of Morning Star podcast. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your family being here. With that, all right, my brother. Thank you. Appreciate it.
In this life we